we've chopped out of the education system anything to do with the arts. We're paying a terrible price today. Already, even in my lifetime, I see it clearly. We've raised up a whole generation of ignoramuses in the arts. And they're planning our buildings, designing our automobiles, designing our household equipment. And we're beginning to look like what's happening. Sorry to be so discouraging. But there's a place to begin. And we're at that point. We've got to get over the idea that what we're dealing with is just a hobby or just a decoration. Incidentally, an Ikebana in a Japanese house or any place in the world is not a decoration. This is a very hard thing for most Americans to come to grips with. We like decoration. And we think when we make the average person, if they make a flower, they think they're doing a decoration for the coffee table, the dining room table. Remember, Ikebana is not a decoration. It is a personal work of art. If it happens to be decorative, okay. Nobody's going to be upset by that. But that's not the purpose. You see, you have to keep your eye on the purpose. The purpose is not decoration. It's individual expression as a work of art. This leads us all to the do's and the don'ts and so on. There are a lot of do's and don'ts. Don't use flowers at funerals. Don't use flowers for weddings. Don't use flowers as decoration in the house. Brings up a few questions, doesn't it? Why don't they use flowers for weddings? Because it's an insult to the flower. You take a tight, stuffed-in bunch, and then you throw it, destroying it. Rude, crude, bad manners. Don't send flowers to funerals. They just waste away in the cemetery and become garbage. Insulting to the flowers and the plants. This upsets a few bolts, doesn't it? Because we love our funeral flowers, we love our wedding flowers, we love our decoration. Just remember that if the work of art you create happens to be beautiful or decorative, there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. It's a byproduct, not the goal. That's the difference. Now, how do we begin doing anything about it? Well, we begin to be sensitive to containers, for example. And it's not a bad idea to have some tools. The Japanese have the right tools. Usually, in our crude, uneducated way, we use the kitchen paring knife or maybe the garden clippers or something. That's about as far as we go. Remember that there are some very nice tools for trade. And if you'd like to look close, I'll keep those handy. Among other things, today we have a hope container. And that brings up the question. Ikebana is a form of communication. For example, Japanese house, there's something called a tokonoma. It's an alcove, architecturally built into the house. And it's for fall arrangement or other work of art. And incidentally, I think sociologically, the tokonoma is one of the most important sociological things that could happen. It means that a child of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of age is exposed to the arts from the beginning. Real works of art, not fakes. Real works of art from the very beginning. Where do our children get their first impressions? Line and color and dark and light. Where? Television. Take a look at our television for 2 hours and you'll be aware of the problem. And think that our children, as infants, they're not getting anything in the arts, and at 7 or 8 years of age, they're being exposed to garbage television. If you want to know why we're in bad shape, contemplate that. The answer is obvious. Now, to the communicative aspect. You go to a Japanese house, or any house that has a tokonoma, including yours, and remember, you can set up a corner in your house as a tokonoma. And when you arrive at the house, you look at the arrangement, and you can tell from the arrangement, it's communication. If there's been a death in the family, if there's been an illness, anybody's gone to the hospital, new baby, new birth in the family, all kinds of things can be explained in the arrangement. Japanese society has an amazing way of being predictive. In other words, you have a card, your business card, tells everybody what you are. And you exchange cards immediately on meeting somebody. And it tells your profession, your background, everything about you in the card. And you don't even have to read about it. The material on which the card is printed tells the story. For example, an artist has a card that is printed on a thin sheet of kiri wood. That just announces to everybody getting the card that you're an artist. You don't have to explain it. Same for all the professions, including prostitution. I discovered that one very amazingly and accidentally. One night one early morning, I went to my teacher's house, Professor Yoshida, and he wasn't up yet, and so I went next door and took pictures in a Japanese garden nearby. And a dear sweet lady came out and said, "Oh, would you like to come in our garden and see more?" Well, of course I would, so I went in. All of a sudden, girls came fluttering out of the house with chairs, a chair and cookies and tea and everything. And all of them gave me their little cards. And I was new in Japan, I didn't know the code. They're little tiny cards about so big. And they have rounded corners. And they're pink, cherry blossom pink. And they're prostitutes. I saw my teacher standing by the gate, and I said, "Oh, Professor Yoshida, come in, your neighbors are being sold." That's how I describe that card code. Anyway, if a boat is facing outward in the arrangement in the tokonoma, it means that you're going on a trip. Somebody in the house is about to go on a trip. If the boat faces the other way, it means you just returned. And an omiyagi is in order. omiyage is an honorable return gift from a trip. So the signal is clear. Your obligation, what's happened, everything. Not everything in Ikebana comes from a flower shop. In fact, very few things do, for the reasons I've already told you about. We sell things, we sell garbage, and in the wrong numbers, almost a guarantee of failure. And so, anyway, not everything, for instance, if you want a beautiful contrast, this is one of the most beautiful contrasts you can get, and I guess I need my tool over there. Oh, here we are. And too well set up. A lot of material that you can use for arrangement comes from the store, from the grocery store. The most beautiful contrast. And it's a flower. The name indicates it. It's a cauliflower. And so it can be arranged in the arrangement as an element. Remember that. I'm not really demonstrating it, it's too complicated places. But it may give you an idea. If you want a beautiful texture and long-lasting material, parsley from the market is a wonderful material. So there's a nice contrast, dark and light, and texture. Looking at it from the art standpoint, it's dark and light and texture. Looking at it just from the material standpoint, it's cauliflower and parsley. Now, if you want to have a nice linear element,
why don't we pull that out from behind you so you can see what's in it? So careful here. Just kind of come and then, yeah.
Needs a sail. You can easily do it with this line.
Perfect.
And then you have a needle holder that holds everything in place.
Some more lines.
And if you want the line to go in a certain direction, you have to develop an eye for what you're doing. And you can find a branch somewhere in the garden with the line going the way you want it to. You see, you don't have to worry about it. So that is a line that could happen in the arrangement where you want it to happen. And on the needle.
There's also
And then you want your texture to be
I'll get that. And there's eyes.
incidentally, illumination is very important in the practice of Ikebana. And so a good pair of clippers helps. For instance, this line is not a good line, so we take it off. Illumination is a very important thing. This is a cool line, so we take it off. Maybe more of that trimming later. If you want your texture to be floral, well, you have a choice. You use the cauliflower or you can use the hydrangea. And So you could, so far I haven't cut anything out. And I would eliminate a great many things in the process. And I'm not going to, make finished arrangements because we don't have time. But this will kind of give an idea of a sketch of an arrangement. And I told you about the direction. And the viewing angle is the direction. And as you can see, it's not a container that you usually find in the flower shop. You know where to get containers like this? The annual December pottery sales, University Art Departments. Their choice of getting good containers than you ever will in a flower shop.